Keith stumbled upon the old well while exploring the far end of his family's farm. Hidden amidst overgrown weeds and gnarled trees, it stood forgotten, its stone rim crumbling with age. The wooden cover had long since rotted away, revealing a dark, gaping hole. He peered inside but saw only blackness. The air hung heavy and still, carrying a faint, musty odor. It smelled ancient, like something long forgotten. Keith found himself oddly drawn to the well. He tossed a small pebble into its depths, listening intently for any sound. Silence. He tried again, this time with a larger rock. Still nothing. It was as if the well swallowed sound, absorbing it into its mysterious depths. Curiosity bubbled inside him. He couldn't explain it, but he felt compelled to uncover its secrets. What lay hidden beneath the surface? The well seemed to beckon him closer, whispering promises of the unknown. The sun began to dip below the horizon, casting long, eerie shadows across the farm. Keith knew he should head back home, but the well held him captive. As he turned to leave, a voice echoed from its depths. It was raspy and weak, barely audible above the rustling leaves. "Hello?" the voice croaked. "Is someone there?" Keith froze, his heart pounding in his chest. He cautiously approached the edge of the well, his eyes straining to pierce the darkness. "Who's there?" he called out, his voice trembling. The voice chuckled, a dry, crackling sound. "Don't be afraid, child. I won't hurt you. I need your help." Keith hesitated, unsure whether to run or stay. Curiosity warred with fear. He took a step closer. "What do you need?" he asked tentatively. The voice seemed to gain strength, growing louder. "Bring me something tasty," it hissed. "Something alive." The voice haunted Keith's dreams. He couldn't shake the feeling that he was meant to return to the well, to fulfill some unspoken agreement. Days turned into nights, and the full moon rose, bathing the farm in an eerie silver light. It was then that Keith felt an irresistible pull towards the well. He knew what he had to do. He snuck out of his house, his heart pounding in his chest. In his hands he carried a small cage, its occupant a plump field mouse he had caught earlier that day. He reached the well and peered into its depths. The voice was there, stronger than ever, echoing against the stone walls. "You have returned," the voice rasped, its tone laced with anticipation. "And you've brought me a gift?" Hesitantly, Keith lowered the cage into the well. He felt a cold, unseen hand grasp it, pulling it down into the darkness. A moment later, the cage reappeared, empty. "Yes," Keith whispered, "I have brought you something tasty." The next morning, Keith awoke to find something extraordinary. Nestled amongst the worn floorboards of his room was a small, shimmering object. He picked it up, his fingers tingling with anticipation. It was a gold coin, old and heavy in his hand. He had never seen anything like it. He raced back to the well, his heart pounding with excitement. He leaned over the edge, his voice echoing against the stone. "Did you leave this for me?" he shouted. The voice chuckled, a low, rumbling sound. "A reward for your offering," it hissed. "Bring me more, and you shall have more treasures than you can imagine." Keith's mind raced. He could buy so much with this gold coin. He could help his family, buy new clothes, anything he desired. But deep down, a seed of unease began to grow. The price of these treasures was a high one, paid in the currency of living creatures. Section 5. Whispers of Greed. Keith's trips to the well became more frequent. The voice demanded larger, more exotic offerings. Rabbits, chickens, even a young lamb, all disappeared into the well's gaping maw. In return, Keith's collection of treasures grew. Gold coins, silver goblets, precious jewels. His secret hoard became a testament to his dark bargain. The once bright and cheerful boy grew withdrawn and secretive. He couldn't shake the chilling voice that echoed in his dreams, demanding more, always more. He became obsessed, his thoughts consumed by what he would offer next, what new treasure awaited him. but the well's appetite seemed insatiable. The voice grew more demanding, its tone laced with a chilling impatience. The animals on the farm were dwindling, and Keith's parents began to notice their disappearances. He knew he couldn't keep up this charade for much longer. Section 6. The Disappearing Cat. Panic began to set in. Keith had exhausted his supply of farm animals. His pockets bulged with glittering rewards, but the voice in the well was relentless. It demanded a new offering, something different. The family cat, Whiskers, rubbed against Keith's legs, purring contentedly. A wave of nausea washed over Keith. He couldn't, could he? But the voice whispered temptations, promises of unimaginable wealth. The gold coins felt heavy in his pocket, a constant reminder of the price he had to pay. That night, under the ghostly glow of the full moon, Keith found himself drawn back to the well. He carried with him a burlap sack, its contents wriggling nervously. Tears streamed down his face as he lowered the sack into the well's dark maw. The voice chuckled, a sickeningly pleased sound. The next morning, Whiskers was gone. Section 7. The Missing Dog. The disappearance of Whiskers sent ripples of worry through the farmhouse. His younger sister, Lily, cried for days, her tiny voice calling out for her feline companion. Guilt gnawed at Keith's conscience, but it was quickly overwhelmed by the insatiable greed fueled by the voice in the well. The voice, however, remained unsatisfied. It demanded a larger offering, something closer to Keith's heart. Keith's blood ran cold as he realized what the voice desired. His loyal dog, Buster. Buster, with his soulful eyes and wagging tail, had been Keith's companion since puppyhood. The thought of sacrificing him filled Keith with horror. But the voice whispered promises of power and riches beyond his wildest dreams. It whispered that true wealth required sacrifice, and Buster was a small price to pay. The full moon hung heavy in the sky, casting long, grotesque shadows across the farmyard. Keith stood at the edge of the well, his heart pounding so loudly he thought it might burst. By his side, Buster whined, sensing his master's unease. "I have something special for you," Keith choked out, his voice barely a whisper. He coaxed Buster towards the well, his hand trembling as he unclipped the leash. The voice in the well hissed with anticipation. "Yes, yes, bring it forth! A worthy offering deserves a king's ransom!" With a sob, Keith shoved Buster into the well. The dog yelped as he tumbled into the darkness. A cold, satisfied laughter echoed from the depths, sending chills down Keith's spine. When Keith awoke the next morning, a heavy chest sat at the foot of his bed. Inside, nestled amongst velvet cushions, lay a crown of gold, studded with rubies that glittered like drops of blood. Word of missing pets and livestock spread through the neighboring farms like wildfire. Fear hung heavy in the air, fueled by whispers of strange lights and chilling sounds emanating from the old Miller farm. Keith, meanwhile, had become a recluse in his own home, his bedroom overflowing with riches. The voice in the well had grown stronger, its demands more frequent and sinister. It no longer spoke of gold or jewels, it craved something more, something darker and far more precious. It whispered of power and immortality, of bending the world to its will. One night, as Keith slept fitfully upon his bed of gold, he was awakened by the voice. It slithered into his mind, cold and insidious. It spoke of a final offering, one that would grant him unimaginable power. It whispered of a soul, pure and innocent, a soul that would bind Keith to the well for eternity. Lily. The voice wanted Lily. Panic surged through Keith. He had crossed a line he never thought imaginable. He had given the well everything, but he wouldn't give it his sister. He would defy it, break free from its grasp. But as he stepped towards Lily's room, a cold dread gripped his heart. The door creaked open, revealing an empty bed. Lily was gone. He raced outside, his bare feet pounding on the dew-covered grass. The full moon hung in the sky, a silent witness to his horror. He followed the trail of tiny footprints, his heart sinking with each step. The trail led to the well. Keith stared into the well's dark abyss. The moon's reflection shimmered on the surface, but it couldn't penetrate the shadows below. An unsettling silence had fallen over the farm, broken only by the chirping of crickets and the distant hoot of an owl. He called out for Lily, his voice cracking with terror, but there was no answer, only the echo of his own despair. The well, once a source of whispered promises and glittering treasures, now stood as a silent monument to his greed and the terrible price he had paid. As the first rays of dawn pierced the darkness, Keith turned and walked away from the well. He carried nothing but the weight of his sins and the chilling realization that some bargains, once struck, can never be undone. The voice in the well remained silent, its hunger temporarily satiated, but it would be back. It always came back.